For the first time ever, 2 top 5 AP teams in the SEC and in teams in general have lost in the same weekend to unranked teams. Alabama lost at number 1. Tennessee lost at number 4. Now, let me give you some history, Ty. When we were watching these games Saturday, I was like, oh, man, why are all these teams getting upset? I wonder what the record is for the most ranked teams to lose in a single week. Well, I have it right here, Ty. Do you think this past weekend broke the record for the most AP teams that lost in the same weekend? What's your guess?
I know 2007 was an insane year. I'm going to say no.
On September 28th and 29th of 2007, 7 top 25 teams of Associated Press lost. How many teams lost this weekend, Ty?
I don't want to sit here and do the math.
I mean, I got on thumbnail. You just got on thumbnail.
I can cheat and get on my phone here. You said 7 to 8. Was it 9?
This past weekend tied the record at 7. So
7.
Now we have technically a new record. This past weekend, 7 teams lost. Now that's number 1 Alabama lost 40-35 to Vanderbilt. Number 4 Tennessee lost 19-14 to Arkansas. Number 9 Missouri lost 41-10 to the number 24 team in the country, Texas A&M. Number 10 Michigan loses 27-17 to Washington. Number 11th ranked USC loses 24-17 to Minnesota. Louisville, ranked 22 in the country, loses 34-27 SMU. And finally, the last 25, UNLV loses 44-41 to Syracuse in overtime on Friday night. That was a real fun game to watch.
Yes, I love
Kyle
that.
McCord comes in, transfers from Ohio State to Syracuse. And he's been putting up big numbers up there where the Oranges play. Now, Ty, we now have a college football format of 12 teams. These teams that have just now lost, if it was last year, they're thinking to themselves, oh, I'm not making the playoffs. But now you have the chance with even 1 loss, 2 losses, 3 losses, maybe even 4, to now make the playoffs with the 12-team format. Now, 4 conference winners for P4 will be lock-ins. The best group of 5 team in the country will also be a lock-in. So that leaves 7 teams. And we just had 7 ranked teams lose this past weekend. What do you think the chances are someone like Bama or Tennessee or even Missouri can make it back to playoff conversation so their dreams aren't shattered?
We'll start with the first team. First team you talked about, I see Noah there, Kyle McCord reference. Yeah, he's played great this year. No, we'll start with Alabama. Man, it just felt like Vandy just did whatever they wanted to. Make 40. You just look at that as a college football fan, knowing Vandy the last however many years it's been. They've been bad a while. We can just be straight up honest. They've been bad a while. And you look at Bama, and you obviously know everybody knows the dominance of Alabama. You look at 40 points. Vandy puts up 40 on Alabama. That's just it's just insane to think about. Vandy had their way. Good props to Vandy. They're a good team. About a minute shy of being 5-0. You have that heartbreaker to Georgia State. It's hard to believe Vandy's the same team that lost to Georgia State and also beat Alabama. That's for another thing. But Vandy, good team, and they really exposed some defensive weaknesses from Alabama. Alabama's just it seems like they run a lot of the same stuff and a lot of cover one man. That's really what it was like, and Vandy just schemed them up all day. So
Diego Pavia.
Yeah, Pavia's great. He was great last year with New Mexico State. He's got, Jerry Kills, his offensive coordinator, who was at New Mexico State last year. So that's, obviously that relationship is great. Pavia's been good. But back on Bama, they're still an incredibly talented team. Obviously, a bunch of those guys be in the NFL, no doubt. Uh, a lot of Bama fans, I just can't imagine what it's like. I haven't looked on the message boards or anything, but I'm sure they're calling for DeBoer's head. Um, I, they have a tough schedule. They still have a couple of tough games. They play Tennessee. They play Missouri. They have to play LSU in Death Valley. There's some tough games on their schedule, and I said this at the beginning of the year. Bama's got to realize they're not just Bama anymore. It's it's different. You lose Nick Saban, and you have a whole new regime there. You still have the same talent. Obviously, they do better than most anybody in college football, in terms of talent acquisition. But they've got to realize there's other good teams out there. There's good teams in this conference. They've got a tough schedule. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, having that tough schedule helps with strength of schedule for Alabama. I think there's some games they can win. At LSU will be tough. LSU usually catches their stride mid-season with Brian Kelly. So we'll see. I think Bama should definitely be in the running for making the playoffs. They're still a good team. This is a shocking loss. It was a shocking loss because nobody expected. What was the spread? It was like a 20.
Oh, dude, spread. It had to be upwards. It had to be
at least 15. It was like a 25-point spread.
It had to be at least 15.
Yeah, but no, and then you have Tennessee. Tennessee's got to play Georgia and Alabama.
Let's stay on Alabama. I want to talk about. Okay. You mentioned their schedule. Yeah. And so if we go back to the week prior to Vandy, Alabama looked untouchable. They looked like nobody could beat them. I mean, you have a team like Georgia who's coming in hungry. They just got snubbed from the college football playoffs, number 5 ranked team in the country. They beat Florida State like 63-3, largest deficit in bowl history. I mean, and they just had the largest deficit in playoff history the year prior to that when they beat the tar out of TCU. And now they're coming in saying, we're hungry. There's no way anybody can beat Carson Beck, front runner for the Heisman going into the season. And Jalen Milroe shows up. Now, every year, the Breakdown has an official Heisman pick before the college football season starts. Last year, it was Jaden Daniels. This year is Jalen Milroe. And this past week, I can confidently say that Jalen Milroe, although he's still up there for my Heisman pick, just because one game happened doesn't mean he's going to lose his Heisman. He didn't play bad. He just had a huge Heisman moment last week and then completely does the opposite to next week to Vanderbilt. You played Vanderbilt worse than you played Georgia last week. I mean, you were pumping the brakes towards the end of the game, but if you never pushed the brakes, Bama would have scored 60 on Georgia. And now you come into Vandy and let Vandy score 40 points on you? Are you kidding me? I mean, this was the Vandy, as college football fans, we know that we're the bottom of the barrel in terms of Power 5. We have seen Vandy consistently be the worst team in the SEC. Well, not anymore. They just beat the best team in the SEC. And now we have to say, okay, well, is Jalen Milroe going to be the guy to win Heisman? And that's kind of what I want to talk about next. Who's going to be the guy that wins Heisman? Maybe if Jalen Milroe isn't the guy. Is it Travis Hunter? Maybe Ashton Jeanty. We can talk a little bit about him. He's looked good. What do you think? Does this ruin Jalen Milroe's Heisman chances at all for this game?
No, I don't think so. I think he's still fine. He played fine. They put up 35 points. Okay. Obviously the pick 6 at the beginning of the game, it was a contested ball. it it just took an unlucky pop in the air. You can take that as you want. Um, you know, he like exactly what he just said right there. I mean, he puts up 35 points and he puts up those numbers. When your defense is that daggum predictable, Vandy's going to scheme you up 24/7. And Georgia started to pick them apart late in the ball game. Bama just had one of the most impressive starts ever, like I've seen in a long time from a defense uh, in any kind of football game last week against Georgia. But from the get go, I mean, Vandy controlled the clock. It was a astounding number of minutes that Vandy had compared to Alabama. I think it was like a 40-20 ratio.
I'll pull
Uh,
for you real quick. It was
yeah,
a 42 minutes of the game Vandy had, and 18 minutes belonged to Bama in time of possession.
yeah. So
That is
close there to
insane.
40-20, 42-18. I mean, that is insane. When you control the ball like that and you can score and take advantage of your opportunities, Connor, they had this also supports the and they did well too. This also supports the time possession thing you want to look at. I think they had like 16 third down attempts. They converted like maybe 12 of them or something like that.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
had
or
18 third
18.
down
Did they 12 of
opposed
18?
to Bama's 7.
Yeah, they
That
controlled the clock.
almost triple.
Yeah, they controlled the
Almost triple.
clock. Vandy just really, and it's crazy to say they just manhandled them, and that was all on the defense. You can't. I just really can't. I can't fault Milroe too much. You can say with the pick six, that's fine. I understand
Exactly.
that, but it's a touchdown. It's a touchdown. The amount of talent on that Alabama defense, and I don't even get me started on Malachi Moore. I mean, that was just what he did at the end of the game was ridiculous. Uh, and I know one thing: under Nick Saban, what Malachi Moore did with kicking the ball at the end of the game and throwing a hissy fit, that would not fly. I mean, Nick Saban, dadgum, might have left him in Nashville, and they might have just went to Tuscaloosa without Malachi Moore. That was embarrassing, uh, and it makes you wonder a little bit about the culture at Alabama. Maybe they're as not as not as disciplined with DeBoer. I think it's too soon to really criticize him. Obviously, he did well with Washington, um, and I think he I think he'll be fine with Bama as long as I mean it's it's simple. Bama's always going to be there. Bama's always going to have the money. Bama's always going to be able to compete in football no matter what. Uh, I think he'll be okay, but the Malachi Moore thing does make you worry a little bit about their culture there. But no, I think going back to the original point, Milroe will be okay. I think he'll be okay. Um, he'll have some opportunities to shine in some big games like LSU and Tennessee, Missouri. They also play Oklahoma as well. The Iron Bowl is always interesting regardless. It's kind of like how the Egg Bowl is. Auburn doesn't look too good right now, but when State doesn't look too good and Ole Miss looks good, it's kind of like last year. State, only loses the game 17-7, and we had a lead at one point. So Iron Bowl is like the Egg Bowl; it can go either way. So a couple of big games that he can shine in. I think he'll be right up there. Uh, you know, in his Heisman campaign.